Hi there. Welcome to my first tutorial. I want to show you how I capture my guitar amps using NAM, Neural Amp Modeler. It's a great piece of software and it just really accurately recreates the sound of my amps in a digital form. This tutorial assumes that you already have the trainer installed on your computer. For instructions on how to do that, go to neuralampmodeler.com. Steve has made some good videos on showing you how to do that. In my DAW, I have to make sure a few things are in place before I start doing captures. For example, I have to go to Options. I have to make sure that pre-record audio input is off. I like to have that on when I'm tracking guitars, but for this, I don't want extra information added to the training file. You also want to make sure in your project setting that your sample rate is set to 48,000 and your resolution to 24-bit. After that, I like to set up a mono track. This would be for my guitar input. We'll set it to input 1 because I have it Focusrite Claret 4 free. So input 1 is this one over here. I also like to set up the level of my input to 0. Then we're going to set out the output of this track to go out output number 3. On my interface is this one over here. Then I connect output 3 to my reamp box using a TSR to XLR cable, and I plug it in here. Then I plug in a guitar cable going out of the reamp box to the input of my guitar amp, like this one. Then I unplug the speaker cable from the amp and I connect a speaker cable from the load box, in this case a SIR reactive load, to the back of the amp where the speaker was connected. There we go. Then to complete the signal chain, we'll connect the line out of the reactive load box to the input 2 of my interface right here. I also like to capture the preamp of my amps, so I connect a guitar cable from the effects send of my amps to this little hum destroyer box, which takes care of a ground loop that happens when you make this, and then TRS cable to the input number 4 of my interface right here. Now we're ready to complete the setup in the DAW. The training file that you can download when you install the trainer. We're gonna make this file go out output number 3 to the reamp box. Then we're gonna create 2 more mono tracks. One is gonna be amp and the other one is gonna be preamp, because we're gonna capture both at the same time. It just saves time this way. Actually, let's rename these. This is what I actually do. I call it the name of the amp and then I put the settings with the gain number, and then I do the same thing here, and I put preamp. This is the way I do it, but it just keeps track of what the settings are, and it just makes it easier for me to know where I'm at and which settings I'm working with. And then once I name them here, they're named for good, so I don't have to worry about the names anymore. So I think about the naming convention at this point. Just a tip for you guys. Then we gotta set up the input of the amp track to input number 2. That's coming from the SIR reactive load. And then on the preamp track, we're gonna set the input number 4, which is coming from the effects return of the amp, or from the effects send of the amp. Then I like to load up an AR loader here, the one I'm gonna be using to monitor. For this, I'm gonna use Miko or Megabyte. Then we're gonna turn on monitoring on the amp track and the DI guitar track. We should be able to get some sound. Here we want to make sure we get the amp to the settings that we like, get the sound that we like. We're monitoring through the Miko's IR loader. Then we turn off all the monitoring and disable any plugins in the signal chain to lower latency. At this point, we're ready to capture our signal through the amp. What I like to do here, I like to set up auto punch and set it up for the range of the training file. That way I can just hit record and don't have to worry about stopping it, or I can get up and it will stop on its own. Then I will arm both tracks. Remember the top one. So let's color them. The yellow one would be the amp one, and the orange one would be the preamp. And then I just hit record. Wait about 3 minutes or so. And then when we come back, we'll go through the process of normalizing and doing the actual training. A quick note on levels. I have my reamp box reamp level at 13.3 dBu. The input 2 coming from the reactive load and input 4 coming from the amp's effects send, they both hit above -12 in my input, as you probably saw in the capturing process. I try to keep it around -12. Let me know if you would like me to make a more in-depth video on how I set up levels. I like to normalize my captured files to keep a consistent volume across all my models. I ended up doing around -5 dB. So the way to do it, there's several ways of doing this. I'm gonna show you the simple way right here in this project since it's open. But when you're working with a lot of captures and files, there's more efficient ways of doing this. But let me just show you this process. What I do is I just select the 2 files that I would just capture. In the Studio One, I just right click and go to normalize audio. It automatically normalizes to 0 dB. So I just take it down to around 5. There. One thing I do keep in mind is when you're doing lower gain and higher gain packs, the normalizing doesn't come out the same. So what I do is on the lower gains models, I usually bump it up a little more to maybe around -3, and that's just to keep it a little more consistent across all gain levels. I may do the mid gains to -4.5 and so forth, but I try to keep it same level across. I then select the range of the training file to make sure the right length is selected for the project. I go to song, export stems, select my 2 tracks, save it to the X drive, make sure it's 2448, and make sure it's mono. Mono, very important, these 3. Click OK. Wait for it to export. We are now ready to train with NAM. So let's open Anaconda. And we're gonna call NAM by typing NAM. For the input audio, we're gonna use the training file we downloaded from neuralampmodeler.com. For the output, we're gonna choose the 2 normalized tracks that we just exported. If you select both like this, you can batch train. Training destination, we'll use the same for now. Then for this test, we're gonna do 100. I've been doing mine at 1000. But I will consider doing some later at feather and lower epochs. When I'm doing a bunch of captures in a row, I like to do the silent run. At this point, we're ready to train. Alright, it's finished. We can now unarm these. We can change our input to the DI track to the mains. We're gonna load up NAM instance here. We're gonna call a new model that we just created. 555 gain 1, not the preamp. There we go. And then we're gonna move over Miko's IR loader and enable it. And make sure we can see everything here, and we're gonna test it. I have to adjust my input for my interface input. That's basically the process I go through to get my captures. I hope this was useful for some of you. If you like this content, please subscribe or like the video, or just comment, say anything, how I can improve. Again, thank you, and have a great day.